The job offer that changed my life. He walked down the empty street with tired eyes and an empty wallet, thinking life could not get worse, but it always did. City was too fast, too loud, too bright, and he felt like a ghost walking between people who did not care who he was. He had no job, no family, and no home, and the nights felt longer than the days. He checked his old phone again. Just one message blinked on the screen, and it looked strange. I want to hire you as my husband, no real marriage. Just a role, you will be paid daily, rules will be explained later. He thought it was a joke, spam, maybe a scam, but his stomach growled and his pocket had only one coin left. Replied with just one word, where? The answer came in seconds with an address and a time. He had nothing to lose, so he went. The house was outside the city, clean, silent, and very large, with tall black gates and cameras watching from every corner. Gate opened slowly, like it was waiting for him, and he walked in feeling unsure but also curious. She stood at the door waiting. She looked rich, dressed in white like snow, calm. But there was something in her eyes, something cold and afraid at the same time. Voice was soft but clear. Thank you for coming, I will explain everything inside. He followed her into a large room filled with strange machines on the walls and old paintings with faces scratched out. She gave him a contract, simple words but strange conditions. You will act as my husband, you will live here. You will follow these rules. 1. Do not leave the house after dark. 2. Never ask about the lights. 3. Never ever stop pretending we are married, no matter who asks. He asked why she needed this. She looked at him with eyes that wanted to cry but didn't. Because if you leave, they will take me. He laughed a little nervously, but she didn't smile. She just looked away and placed the pen in front of him. He signed. The room he was given was warm, clean, quiet, with a large window that showed the garden outside. At night he heard something, a sound like whispers outside his door, not in any language he knew. He stayed in bed, too scared to move. In the morning, she knocked on his door with breakfast and a small smile. You stayed, that's good. She said. He tried to ask about the sound, but she changed the topic. Days passed slowly. She never touched him, but always sat near him like someone who needed to feel not alone. She told him about fake dinners and public events where he had to hold her hand and smile. Every time they left the house, she looked behind again and again. Began to feel strange, like the house was watching him, like the air around the garden was not real. One evening, he opened a drawer by mistake and found a photo. She was standing with 4 people, her parents maybe, and a little girl. All their faces were scratched out, except hers. He asked her about the photo. She froze. They're gone. I was the only one left. I told them not to go out. I told them to stay close. But they didn't listen, and now they're gone. He felt her pain, but something didn't feel right. That night he heard the sound again, louder this time. He stood near the door, not opening it, just listening. A soft blue light passed under the door, like fog but glowing and cold. He wanted to scream, but he couldn't. In the morning he asked her. She just said, you heard them, didn't you? She walked to the window and pointed at the sky. They are not from here. They don't care about names or love or pain. They take what they want and leave only silence. He didn't understand, but he was beginning to feel the weight of something big, something not human. He asked why him, why she chose a stranger. Her answer made him cold inside. Because you don't matter to them yet, but if you stay close to me, maybe, just maybe, they will stay away. She held his hand for the first time. Please don't leave, not ever, because if you do, I won't be here when you come back. He looked at her, so calm yet so scared, and for the first time in years he felt like someone needed him. Nodded slowly. Outside the sky was dark and the air felt heavy, but inside the house she smiled, and far above the clouds something moved, without sound, without light, without mercy. The rules are not just rules. He sat by the window watching the trees move without wind, and the garden lights flicker like they were alive. She was not home today. She had left in a black car with 2 guards and no smile before leaving. She looked at him and said only one thing: don't open the door at night, no matter what you hear. The house was quiet, but it never felt empty. He walked through the halls looking at the old paintings. Some were cut, some were burned, some had no Faces he felt like the house itself had eyes like it breathed slowly in the dark corners. Even the mirrors didn't show his full reflection in. One he saw the back of his head when he was looking forward. He blinked, and it was gone by evening the clouds. Gathered low, heavy, and silent like something was hiding inside them. Made dinner for himself and sat in the main room where the walls had strange patterns like vines made of metal. Time moved slowly, and sleep did not come at exactly midnight. The house changed, the lights went off without warning. The silence was deep and full. Then came the sound again. Whispers. Not made by any mouth, voices that seemed to pass through walls like air, but too sharp, too close. He remembered her words and tried to stay still, but fear moved his feet. He walked to the main door, slowly holding his breath. Sound was louder now, a soft knock that wasn't human, not asking to come in, just reminding him it was there. He should have stayed back, but he turned the lock. He opened the door just a little, just enough to peek through, and what he saw did not belong to this world. Figure was standing across the garden, floating above the grass. Its body was thin like smoke, but wrapped in chains of light. No eyes, no face, just a smooth surface that changed color, as if reading his thoughts. He closed the door fast, heart beating like a drum. Lights came back instantly, and everything looked normal again. He ran to his room and waited for morning. When she returned, she looked at him, and she knew. You opened it, didn't you? He nodded slowly. She sat down and placed her hand on her forehead like she was trying not to cry. Now they know you're real. They know you're not just a cover. They will come closer. Now they never forget a face. He tried to explain what he saw, but she stopped him. Don't describe them. Don't speak their shape. It makes them stronger when we speak of them like they belong here. He felt cold, not from fear, but from something deeper, like part of him had already been touched by them. That night she didn't sleep. She stood by the window holding a strange device that clicked every few seconds and blinked. Red. They move at night, through sound, through shadow, through thought. This house is one of the last safe zones, but only if we follow the rules. He asked who made the rules. She answered in a whisper. The first survivors, those who saw and still lived, those who never spoke again. He asked why she stayed, why not run far away. She looked at him, as if he asked something a child would ask. You can't run from them. Once they notice you, only delay, only distract, and sometimes pretend you're not there. He wanted to leave, pack, and run before it was too late, but she said one thing that made his blood freeze. If you leave, the contract breaks, and they will know it was all fake, and they will take me first, and then they will follow you forever. He did not sleep that night. He stood by the door holding a small silver object she had given him. If the lights go out again, press this, and don't move until they return. The night came, and with it a cold wind from nowhere. He thought he heard her crying behind the wall, but when he knocked, no one answered. He opened the door. The hallway was empty, and the house felt larger, like it had grown in the dark. At 3 a.m. the lights blinked once, then twice, then vanished. Whispers came again, but this time they spoke his name. He pressed the button and the silver object began to hum softly, like it was alive. He stood still, not blinking, not breathing, and just beyond the hallway, he saw the smoke thing again, but this time it turned its head slowly and tilted it like it was curious. It reached out one long arm toward the room, but stopped at the edge of the light. Then it melted into the air like fog under sunlight. The lights returned. She appeared in the room like she had never left. They tested you tonight. You passed barely, but next time they won't. Stop at the door. He looked at her and saw the fear in her eyes, and for the first time he understood. The rules were not made to protect her. They were made to protect him. Who are they? He could not sleep anymore, not really. When he closed his eyes, he saw the figure from the garden. When he opened his eyes, he saw the fear in her face. Not normal fear, not fear of death or pain, a deeper kind of fear, the kind that lives in silence and breathes in memory. She didn't speak much now. She only watched the cameras and listened to strange sounds on old machines. One day he walked past the library and saw a wall covered with pictures, not of family, not of friends, all faces unknown, all eyes wide, all gone. Each picture had a symbol in red ink beside it. Like an alien number or a scar, he stepped closer, and something cold touched his neck. She was behind him holding a paper. "This is a list of the taken." He asked, taken by who? Her voice shook. "By them, by the ones who come without feet, without words, without rules." He asked again, "What are they?" She sat down and placed the paper on the table. Not aliens, not ghosts, something between, something old, something forgotten. He asked why they choose some people and not others. She looked at him carefully before answering. "They don't choose randomly. They choose the ones who see too much or hear what should not be heard, or ask the wrong question at the wrong time." He stepped back a little and whispered, "Have I done that?" She didn't speak. That night he had a dream, but it felt real. He was standing in the middle of the street, but the city was frozen. No cars, no people, no sound. Only one thing moved: a tall figure walking toward him slowly, without feet touching the ground, without a face, without mercy. He woke up with a start, and the silver device beside him was glowing red. He ran to her room. She was gone. He searched the house, room to room, hallway to hallway, but found nothing. Then he saw something strange. The front door was open, but not broken. Camera screen showed nothing, only static. He stepped outside, heart beating too fast, and saw her standing at the edge of the garden, facing the woods, frozen like a statue. He called her name. Answer. He walked slowly to her and touched her shoulder. Her eyes turned to him, wide open, full of something dark. She whispered one sentence again and again. "They showed me the place between the seconds." He pulled her back inside and locked every door, every window. She collapsed on the floor, breathing like she had drowned and just come back later. That night she spoke again, slowly, carefully. "You need to meet someone, someone who knows more, someone who escaped once." He followed her the next morning to a hidden place under the city, a room full of machines and smoke and blinking wires. One man sitting in the corner with eyes that didn't blink. Man smiled without lips. "So you've seen them too. Welcome to the in-between." The man showed him files, photos, sounds. One sound made the lights flicker, another made the temperature drop by 10. He asked the man what they really were. The man answered, "They are the ones who clean the edges of reality, the things that live where time folds." He didn't understand, but his body did. It shook without cold. It knew this truth was too deep for language. The man leaned close. "They let her live because she pretends she belongs. She keeps the story going, but you broke the story. You opened the door. You looked out." He stood up, feeling weak. The woman placed her hand on his. "Now you see why I needed a husband. Not for love, not for family, for cover, for balance, for silence." They walked back home, and the city felt wrong. People moved, but some were not blinking. Some shadows moved the wrong way. The world was almost normal, but not quite. He asked her, "What happens if we stop pretending?" She looked at the sky and said, "Then the story ends," and they erased the scene. He sat down in the room and stared at the photo wall again. This time he saw one picture he hadn't noticed before. It was him, but the background was not the house, not the city. It was a place with no light, no sky, no shape. And under his face was the red symbol, a fake husband or real target. He sat alone in the quiet room, the photo still in his hand, the one where his face looked back at him, but the place around him was not Earth, not any place he knew. The red mark under his picture burned into his mind like it was waiting to wake up. He had never taken that photo, yet it was here, and it looked old. Woman watched him from the hallway, not speaking, not moving. He turned and asked her again, "What is this? Where was this taken? Why is my face here?" She stepped forward slowly, like each step cost her something. "Because you were marked before we met. You just didn't remember." His breath caught. He laughed, but the sound didn't reach his own ears. "You said you hired me because I was unknown, because they didn't care about me." She nodded. "I thought so. I was wrong." He stood up fast, knocking over the chair. "So this was never just about you, was it?" Her voice shook for the first time. "At first it was. I needed someone to shield the pattern, to confuse the watchers, to make the data look like noise, not signal, and you were noise. A man with no ties, no records, no purpose." She looked down. But then the patterns changed, and they started circling again, faster, stronger, like something had drawn them back. He stared at his hands, trying to feel different, but everything still Felt normal except it wasn't. Remembered things, not full memories, just flashes. A hallway made of glass and air. Room without sound but full of screaming. A light that moved inside his body, not around. I fell to his knees holding his head and in that moment, she whispered, "You were taken before, but they returned you something they never do." He looked at her eyes wide. "Why me? Why return me?" She whispered again. "Maybe to watch, maybe to grow, maybe to test, maybe to bring you back." When ready, he didn't speak, he couldn't. Night the house shook, but not from outside. Walls rippled like water, like the building itself was trying to remember another shape. Held the silver device in his hand, but this time it didn't glow. He ran to her room. She was gone again, but this time something else stood in the corner of the room. Not exactly, something smaller, something shaped like him. He moved closer and it copied him, step for step, breath for breath. He touched it, and the moment his skin met its skin, everything around him vanished. The walls fell away, the sky opened like paper. He stood in a space without floor, without air, without end. Around him were shapes, millions of them all, watching, none blinking. He heard a voice, but not with ears, inside his skull, like thunder and ice. "You are the bridge, you are the answer, you are not returned, you are planted." Then he fell back into the room like someone dropped him from space. He opened his eyes to her face above. She was crying now, real tears. "I saw the room, I saw the watchers, you touched the echo. They will come now, they always come when the test is complete." He tried to stand, but his legs were weak. She helped him and pulled him into the hallway. Alarms he never knew existed were blinking in red and blue and green. "You have to leave now, not for me, for you. They are not coming for me anymore, they want you." He shook his head. "You said if I leave they take you." She looked at him one last time. "I lied not to hurt you, to keep them away, but it's you. They want it all along." He backed away slowly. The front door opened by itself outside. The sky was red. The clouds were not clouds. They were eyes. He ran. He didn't know where, only that the city didn't look like Earth anymore. The people were frozen. The shadows were too long. And above all, he heard them inside his thoughts, inside his name, calling him back, calling him home. The abduction night. He ran till the streets turned quiet and the air turned thick, like breathing inside water. His steps no longer made sound. The world looked the same, but it wasn't. Past people who didn't blink, didn't breathe, didn't move, and when he looked back they were gone. He found a building with a broken door and hid inside. It smelled like burnt plastic and old memories. He sat in the dark, shaking, holding the silver device, but it no longer glowed, no longer hummed, no longer helped. He whispered her name, but only silence answered. Time stopped working. Night came without sunset, and then he saw them, not outside, inside. The cracks of the wall inside, the shape of his shadow inside his eyes. When he blinked, they were not many. They were one wearing 1,000 faces. He stood up, but his legs were not his anymore. Walked out of the building without choice, without will. The sky opened above him, and the stars were wrong. One star blinked 3 times and fell toward him. It was not a star, it was a cage made of light. He felt his body stretch like paper, like cloth, like memory. He didn't scream. Screaming did not exist in this place. Then he was gone, gone from Earth, gone from time, gone from name. Inside the cage, the world had no edge. It moved like breath, like blood, like thought, and in the center stood a mirror made of liquid, made of sound. It showed him her face. She was calling for him, but her voice was inside his own lungs. He reached out and touched the mirror, and everything began to tear. His skin became dust. His memories became fog. His name became a song with no end. He saw her face again, but this time not afraid. She was calm. She was glowing. She said only one thing: "You have to wake up now. They've started copying you." He looked to his side. Another him stood there, then another, then a third, all moving slightly wrong, all breathing like machines. Screamed finally, but no sound came. Then light, then silence, then her voice again: "Come back, come back, come back." His eyes opened. He was back in the house, on the floor, in the same room, but nothing was the same. She stood over him with burns on her face and a blade in her hand. Behind her the walls were covered in static light. He tried to speak. She stopped him. Don't say anything yet they haven't finished scanning you. He blinked. What do you mean scanning? Me, what did they take? She touched his chest. They took the version of you that stayed silent, that followed the rules, that played the role. They left the version that questions, that remembers, that runs. He sat up slowly. Which version is this? Then, she looked away. The one they will destroy last. She pulled him up, dragged him through the hallway. The house was falling apart, but not from fire or bombs, from unreality, from too many choices, from broken loops, from overexposure. She opened a hidden door behind a bookshelf, and inside was a metal room, humming like a machine with a heart. She locked it behind them. This is the core. This is where the story is written. This is where we still exist. He looked around at the glowing shapes. Floating in the air, each one showed a memory, a moment, a path he could have taken, but didn't. She placed his hand on one of them. He saw himself as a child staring at the sky, the same sky from the cage. She spoke slowly. They marked you before birth. Your memory was a test, your fear was a map, your name is a gate. He stepped back. So I was never real. She smiled a broken smile. No, you're more real than anyone because you remember that you're not. Then the room began to shake. The shapes flickered. They had found them again. She handed him a second device, small, black, cold. This one doesn't protect. This one erases if they pull you again. This time you choose what they take. He held it close. Will I come back? She whispered. Only if you still want to be you. Outside the door, a sound began, like metal crying, like time collapsing, like the end of the script. Why her, why me? The sound outside the metal room grew louder, not like footsteps, not like machines. It was the sound of something writing, something rewriting. The walls shook like a dream trying to stay real. He sat in the corner, holding the black device. Close chest rising fast, heart beating wrong. She stood in the center still, as glass eyes closed, lips moving without sound. He asked her again. Why me? Why did they choose me? She opened her eyes slowly and whispered one sentence that bent the air. Because you were mine before you were born. He froze, not in fear, but in something deeper, like a forgotten chord being played again after years of silence. Walked toward him, her hands shaking, her breath uneven. You were supposed to be taken long ago. They had marked your family, but something went wrong that night. You disappeared and came back, and you didn't remember anything, but I did. He looked at her, his voice dry. What do you mean you did? She sat beside him like a storm sitting inside a body, because I was there. I was the one who opened the door. I was the one who screamed your name when they took you. His hands began to tremble. He remembered now. Clearly, but enough. A room full of toys, a girl his age, a knock at the door, then light, then silence. He looked at her, eyes wide. You're the girl from that house, the one who gave me the silver ring, the one who said hide in the closet. She nodded slowly. I thought they took you completely. I thought I would never see you again. But years later, I saw your name on a file in the pattern feed, and I knew I had to act fast. He stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. Everything started to fall into place. The fake marriage, the house with the rules, the job offer that came too perfectly. You didn't hire me to protect yourself, you hired me to protect me. She looked down. Yes and no, because once I found you again, they started circling. I had to build a story fast. I had to anchor you inside a pattern that hides you from their logic. He looked at the floating symbols around them, some glowing bright, some blinking in pain. And the others, the pictures, the faces, were they all like me? She shook her head. No, you're the only one who came back and stayed human. The others came back empty or wrong or not at all. The sound outside changed now. It sounded like something peeling back the world like a curtain. The door began to bend inward. He stood up. Black device in one hand and the other. Tell me what they are. Tell me now. She spoke slowly, each word like a knife. They are the editors of existence. They remove what doesn't fit. They delete what remembers too much. They are not evil, not cruel, just clean and cold and final. He whispered. Then, why leave me alive? She answered. Because you are a question they couldn't solve. The door cracked open, white light spilled in, and in that light stood a version of him, but taller, sharper, smiling too wide. The copy stepped forward and said one word, trade. Held him tighter. Don't listen, they lie in beauty, they lie in symmetry. The copy raised its hand and suddenly he saw everything, every version of himself. The coward, the traitor, the one who ran, the one who served them, and in all versions she died except this one. The real him fell to his knees. So this is the only path where you survive. She nodded. Because you never gave up, because you stayed when you could have run. He stood again, eyes locked on the copy. No trade, not this time. The device in his hand started to glow again, but not silver blue, then gold, then black. He pressed it, everything stopped. The copy blinked and shattered into smoke. The door froze mid-bending. The room held its shape, but outside the white space waited silent, hungry. She looked at him now with tears, not from fear, but from memory. They will try again, they always do, but you're not just protected anymore. You're awake, and awake minds bend the pattern. He smiled, not because he felt safe, but because he finally understood he was not just part of the story, he was a rewrite.